Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make the modern acid techno 303 sound like you hear it in tracks by Regal, Charlotte DeWitt, and really like a lot of different producers doing this sound right now. The thing is, with these kinds of 303s, like it's not the same as just like, put a low pass filter on a saw wave and turn up the resonance. There's a little bit more going on under the hood to really get it to sound full and professional and fat like you hear in these tracks. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And to go along with this video, I've just dropped a new sample pack. You can see it's right here. It's called Definitive Acid Techno 303s Volume 1. What this is it's 20 303 lines that I created here. I'll play a few of them for you. You can hear all of these have like that really fat, big, modern sort of sound. Again, it's not just like a little thing, but we have these really fat things here, and you can see also with this you get the audio and the MIDI for all of them, so that is available right at the top of the description. You also get these bonus acid presets and 5 bonus drum loops to go along with it, so you can make a whole track using just this sample pack. So yeah, link to that is at the top of the description. I'm going to be using one of the presets and some of the MIDI from there today to explain this to you. And yeah, if you guys want to support me, it's a great way to do it as well. I don't always make a whole lot of money off of these videos, but with this, I'm able to keep going and keep making these videos every single day and teaching you guys these things. And yeah, let's dive in. Link to that is at the top of the description. So the first point here is, you can see we have this little 303. You can see we have this MIDI here, it's very just like choppy and staccato. You can see like the 16th notes aren't even touching each other. And the first thing is going to be the starting sound. So if I turn these effects off, you can hear we're starting with this. And all this is it's just literally a saw wave going into a bandpass filter, and that's it. You can see the bandpass just has an envelope on it. We've got the resonance up pretty high, and then I have a little bit of the shaper as well. But again, like the starting sound isn't always going to be that like huge fat monster like you were hearing a second ago. This is kind of what you want to start with. Basically all this is it's just, the saw wave is like a very harmonically rich waveform. And then you're putting it through this bandpass filter where it's doing like not too much of a sweep, because you can see the envelope isn't high, but it's just kind of like sweeping from a higher point to a lower point. And yeah, a lot of times I see people saying to use a low pass filter. The reason why you want to use a bandpass and not a low pass is because with a low pass you can see it just has a little bit too much in like the low end. Like you get that really sharp low end, and when you bring in the distortion, it doesn't really sound that juicy. You just kind of get this big distorted thing. But if you switch it to a bandpass, it's a little bit better for the 303 sound. And then also turning up the resonance really helps with that. Like if I turn this down, it's not quite the same, but then you start turning it up, and that's how you get the sound. So yeah, that's the first thing. It's just the sound wave going into the bandpass filter. You're going to use not too much envelope. Again, like 20% is pretty good. Maybe a little bit of, like, if your filter has a distortion on it, like I've got here with this shaper. And yeah, that's the starting sound. Again, that's not going to be as, like, massive as the finishing thing. It should start a little bit smaller like this. The second thing, after you get the saw wave and the resonance and the bandpass filter and the envelope just right, is the distortion. So the distortion is very important because obviously just a saw wave on its own, you're going to get that. But if we start bringing in these distortions here, you can hear what happens. Essentially, when you have this really resonant bandpass filter, you're getting like a really juicy and harmonically rich sound. And when you put that into distortion, it's going to sort of like bring up some of those harmonics and make them really intense. And that's what we're doing here, and that's how you get that really big, fat 303 sound. Like the distortion, you really can't make one of these modern 303s without the distortion at this point. Like, maybe for like the old school type of ones, but you really just can't get this sound because again, like, this is what's making it so fat. And I really recommend stacking distortions here. Like you can see, we have two different ones that are doing different things. I'll play them side by side. Like here's just the amp. You can hear that's bringing out a lot of crunch, but it's still not very fat just yet. And then we have the saturator, which on its own, you can hear does actually bring out some of that low mid-range and some of that fatness. But on its own, it's not quite enough. But then when you stack these together, you get kind of the best of both. And there we go. It all comes together really nicely. So yeah, that's the first thing with the distortion. The other thing I'll say is definitely I recommend using amp stimulators. Like, if you can, like the Ableton one is awesome. You know, there's a bunch of different ones. Guitar Rig, GTR. I'm sure there's a million others you can think of. But yeah, like, it's just a really great way to add character, and it just, like, you know, it gives you something that you don't get with just the saturator. Like, just the saturator is good, too, after the amp, but the amp is going to give it that character and that texture. And I think that's the thing here, too, like, with the distortion, is just really paying attention to the texture of the sound and how you're really, like, shaping it sonically. And yeah, and also, stacking two distortions helps for that too, because you can kind of customize them a little bit more. You know, if you just use one distortion, you're just kind of at the mercy of, like, what that's going to sound like. But with two, you're getting all these different things happening to make it really sound interesting and creative. So yeah, after the distortion, the next thing with this modern 303 sound is the width. Because if you listen to this on its own without this thing I'm about to turn on, it definitely sounds like a 303, but it's not super pleasing just yet. You know, it doesn't really have that, like, kind of produced sound to it. So this is where adding some width comes into play. What we're going to do is we're going to turn on this echo, and now and then with it, so you hear how this adds that thing, like, you know, this is that kind of thing where when you're listening to a reference track or like a sample or a loop or something like that, a lot of times it'll have like a very kind of, like, it doesn't just sound like it's coming straight out of the synth, you know, it has this kind of feel to it. And this fullness. That's what this echo is doing. Essentially what we're doing with this is we just have a ping pong delay here, where what ping pong delay is, if I make this really slow, you can see. See how it's going like left to right and left to right? It's doing that, but then it's just really fast. So you're getting like that little bit of space. And it's making the sound a bit wider as well. And again, like when I compare my tracks with 303s to other tracks, like reference tracks, a lot of times this is the thing that really needs work, is just giving it that fullness and that width like that to really get the like big modern sound. And yeah, so after the width, the last thing is actually probably the simplest step, and that is to do a low cut. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get an EQ8 here, and we're literally just going to cut out, like, you see how there's all this stuff happening down here? We're going to cut it a little bit above 100 hertz. So you notice how it's still pretty much the same sound. It's not like too thin, but it just doesn't have that like deep low end to it. This is really important, and the reason why is because I'll bring in one of these kicks from the drum loops. If you have a kick in here, you know, a techno kick that you're going to have playing underneath this at any time is going to be really big and fat in the low end. So if you have a bunch of low end happening in this sound as well, they're going to clash and your mix is not going to sound that good. However, if we cut out the low end, now you can hear the kick really clearly, and you can hear the 303 really clearly. So yeah, that's another step that I think is the last thing you need to do to really give it like, really make it fit into your tracks. Because if it's clashing with the bass, it's going to sound really bad, especially in the club. Like, if you play this in the club with like the kick and the 303 clashing, there's going to be so much rumbly low end that's going to be like just too messy. But this is a really simple way. Again, it's still the same sound. We're not like cutting it too much. It's not like we're doing that. We're cutting it so we're still keeping in the fat, low mid-range frequencies. We're just not getting all that lower than 100 hertz stuff. So it won't clash with the kick so much. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I just wanted to show you some techniques I picked up on listening to some of these producers' tracks of how to make a really fat, clean, modern-sounding 303 sound that will work in professional-sounding tracks. So yeah, it's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. I guess in the beginning, you can get the definitive Acid Techno 303's sample pack right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. Like I said, you get 20 super cool acid lines where you get the MIDI and the wave for all of them, so you can work with them in any DAW, and you can really get in and deconstruct them and maybe make your own sound on top of them as well and still use these MIDIs. Plus, you get the bonus Acid 303 presets and the bonus drum loops. Again, the link to this is right at the top of the description. It's a great way to support me. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.